Going back in?
There's still men out there. God damn. When I go home, people ask me, "Hey, Hoot, why do you do it, man? Why? Just some kind of war junkie?" I won't say a goddamn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Good knowing exactly where to go with the football.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. And if you liked the intro to my show, I'm actually bringing on the man, the myth, the legend that helped create that intro and make it what it is. It is actually my special guest of the week, the shy kid, Mike Hughes, who covers everything Chicago.
Interview of the week sponsored by LTD Tactical.
All right, here he is himself. Mike, how are we doing, buddy? Welcome
What's
on
up,
the
Eddie?
show.
How you feeling, man?
Hey, I'm feeling great. It's hot. It's the summer. And you know what else we got? Be less than a month away from NCAA 25 coming out.
You know how I feel about it, Tone. Horns down all the way. We're not allowed to have fun anymore. So, we got Archie Manning's not in the game. No horns down. What game even is this, Tone? This ain't the game I grew up on.
It's not NCAA 14, which I still play. I'm probably going to play this after I get off this show, to be 100% honest with you.
For this day, I would too.
But we got a little bit to dive into today. Is obviously the offseason for a lot. I know for anybody that doesn't know, Mike is a huge Bulls fan. He covers everything Chicago. So he is actually also watching the NBA draft while he's doing this show currently to see what his Chicago Bulls do. But we got to talk about probably the biggest thing that, in my opinion, as somebody who is a casual NBA fan, and I'm man enough to admit that, the Lakers, and what are they doing? Because obviously not too long ago, they went out, they offered Dan Hurley 6 years, $70 million, about $10 million a year to be the head coach of the Lakers. And Dan said no. So then they were flirting even with at the time. They're like, okay, we want JJ to be our guy. JJ may or may not be it. And they finally reach a deal with JJ Redick. And he's kind of already rubbed some people the wrong way, but they do it really late into the offseason, right before the NBA draft. He's still got to hire some assistant coaches, because if he hires some good assistant coaches, he could potentially do really well, considering he's never coached at any type of level other than, I think he coached like a fourth grade elementary school basketball team. So he's got a little bit of work to go through. But Mike, man, what's your thoughts on them hiring JJ? Do you think it's a mistake right off the bat?
I think it's a mistake for what they were trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. I think JJ is going to be a great head coach, and I'm not just saying that because I was a huge JJ Redick fan or because I listened to his podcast. Like, compared to you and myself and anybody that just listens to podcasts and just not played in the NBA, JJ's made it clear. I know more than you. You don't know more than me. So, of course, he knows better than us, but does he know better than some of the best coaches in the league? That is yet to remain to be seen. Is he good in certain situations? For a guy who just stood in the corner his entire career, we'll have to see. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited about it. The only reason I think it was a mistake from what the Lakers were trying to accomplish was, they fire Ham, who was a first-time head coach due to inexperience and due to just not being great in certain situations. And then you hire a first-time head coach and a first-time coach in either the collegiate level or in the NBA. So it's interesting. Not as interesting as Houston keeping the number 3 overall pick, but I mean, it definitely interesting. I think it's really going to be a lot of fun to see JJ do his thing. And I don't know if I can curse on here, but
Yeah, you can.
when he said he don't give a fuck, I was
Yep.
like, sold. I'm sold. JJ to the moon. That's exactly what you want to see. Like, he doesn't care how it looks. He understands if it doesn't work, he's probably going to get fired. So he wants it to work. He wants this to be a great thing. So I like it. Real quick, not to go on like I don't like talking for like X amount of time because I always feel like I talk too much. But I myself personally, I cannot speak for Tony or this network, but I felt like the offer they had for our guys in college never really were legitimate. It was kind of like, hey, we're going to offer you this, and I just need you to say no so that we can hire JJ. And that's really how I felt about it. They did their due diligence of trying to get other coaches. But I felt like it was JJ the entire time.
Yeah, and I'll be 100% honest with you. When Dan said no, I was not upset by no means because I look at this for a couple reasons. One, why JJ said, well, surprisingly, why JJ didn't say no. I know why Dan didn't say no, and it's for a couple different reasons. And to your point real quick about Ham, a first-time head coach, and let's be realistic too, when they just got beat in the playoffs, like they got swept, it wasn't because they weren't well coached. It wasn't because, they were like a bum team. They just got beat by Denver. Like it wasn't like they were just going out there getting trounced and losing by like 30, 40 points.
Right.
They were losing close games. So the fact that people are like, well, Darvin Ham wasn't a good coach. I mean, you're not wrong, but the fact that he still managed to get them to that point and they just get swept because they just get beat by a better team, says a lot about his ability to coach.
Yeah,
Now,
I felt like it was a lot of it was like if you watch Lakers games, which I don't watch a lot of them, but I watch, especially in the playoffs or towards the second half of seasons, I watch a lot of them. And a lot of the time you're seeing Bron be a player coach. I see Bron with the clipboard in his hand, with the whiteboard, drawing up a play in the late game situations. And I think that was probably what frustrated him the most was and I felt like Bron throughout his entire career, even with Ty Lue, there are times where he disagrees with you and he's going to do it his way. Give me the fucking clipboard. And he just draws it up himself. We've seen Giannis do that before. And it's just one of those things where I think Bron wanted to get somebody who thinks the way he does more so than like, hey, you're going to buy into my system. And Bron's like, no, you're buying into what I want to do, which is what may have started the JJ Redick Bron podcast to see if they do mesh the way he might think they do. And that was a great podcast. It was informative. It taught a lot of people a lot of things of useless information unless you really care about hoops. I don't know if you watched it, but like they have like the meanings of the terminology underneath what they say. It's informative. It's informative. But yeah, that's how I felt about it. If you felt any different.
No, I honestly, so that's kind of where I was going to go with it because I look at this for two reasons. If I'm JJ, I feel like you're in kind of a bad spot no matter what. Like if I was JJ and people were seriously considering taking me as a head coach, I would have rather gone to Cleveland to be a head coach to learn because it's a young roster. They've been set up for success the last couple of years. They can make a pretty good playoff run as far as the East goes. They have a real chance to succeed. Now, if he goes to Detroit, that's literally a trial by fire. Whereas if he goes to LA, he's in such a weird spot. Much to your point, I think a lot of this is LeBron's true chance to see how well he can do in coaching. And I'll be honest, like you said, we've kind of seen this throughout his career. And I think this is mainly started back when he came to Cleveland the second time with Ty Lue. I don't know how much he respected Ty Lue as a coach,
Right.
because you notice LeBron was pushing for all the roster moves to happen. And then when basically those roster moves went to crap, he's like, all right, I'm leaving. I already want to go to LA anyway. This kind of works out perfectly. Cleveland's left in a dumpster fire while they have to rebuild for a few years. I'm going to go to the Lakers, and essentially did the same thing. They went all in for the bubble. They get their championship, and now the Lakers have been kind of rebuilding. Now they've been able to get some guys with Ray Hachimura, Austin Reeves. They have some dudes, but if I'm JJ, like I'm kind of sitting here, okay, because immediately the first thing that this front office wants at minimum is you got to make a championship appearance. You can't even just get to the Western Conference Finals. You got to win a championship. And even then, ask Frank Vogel, you're not safe as staying the Lakers head coach, even if you win a chip. And that to me is just so unrealistic. And that's why I'm happy Dan Hurley didn't take it, because you gotta look at a multitude of things that he's going to have to deal with as a head coach. You got to deal with current LeBron, who, while he is still a star, he is still giving you quality productivity. He can't carry the team anymore like he used to. You have to deal with an AD that, while he's been healthy and been really good about staying healthy the last couple seasons, is he going to stay that way throughout your coaching tenure? And then honestly, the rest of your roster, you have a bunch of dudes that you're trying to make a number 3, when in all actuality, you can't really do that, because you need some type of a solid 3 and 4 guy. You have a bunch of dudes kind of role playing into this. And now for JJ on top of that, you're going to have to, if you can make it this long, you not only have to deal with, current LeBron, you have to try to deal with the Lakers team post LeBron.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that might be a little bit of a hot take. You tell me what you think, because you watch the NBA more than I do. I think if LeBron retires, I think AD follows.
Follows what?
I think he either follows him into retirement or he leaves the Lakers. One of the two.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm so happy there's a second option. AD,
Yeah.
AD's not retiring by any. I think there's, like, from a business decision, there's a lot more money to be made for someone like Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis could ride out in the NBA for probably the next 5 to 7 years, I would imagine.
Yeah, because I kind of look at it as, I don't think AD, not that I don't think AD couldn't be a number 1. I don't think physically he's going to be able to be a number 1, as far as you got to be the main guy we feed through, especially given your injury history. Now, again, you've done better the last few years, but you've also had the help of Braun the last couple seasons too.
Let's be the last year. Like that, that was, this past season was great, but over the last 2 years, like, no, I can't give him years yet. He played more than 50 games for the first, or 60 games in the first time, and I don't know how long.
I think his entire career, isn't it?
To your point though, even if he is fully healthy, as he continues to age, you brought him in to be Batman. You traded Ingram, Lonzo, Julius, and everybody else, Josh Hart, and they've all had success elsewhere, outside of Lonzo. But even to be fair, like, even Lonzo did have success when he did play. And I think when you trade all of those assets for that, and Brandon Ingram, how could I not forget about Brandon Ingram? Well, I know how I can forget. He's in New Orleans, but Brandon Ingram's a dog. And I think with AD, without Bron, it's like, even when you were with Bron outside of the bubble, we never really saw you take over as a top 5 player in the league. And that's what LA wants. So I think they definitely would go into a rebuild mode and move on from Anthony Davis. Retiring is not a question. I mean, that's not, I don't think it's a statement for AD at this point in his career. I don't even think he's 32, if I'm not mistaken. He's what?
I don't think so either. But I only say that because do you think AD would be okay with having to basically go somewhere else and being a 2? Because I mean, you think about it, when you look at somebody like LeBron, it's really hard to argue like, yeah, I could be the one after LeBron leave. Like, that's hard to make an argument. But now, like, I might have to be the 2. Like, if I go to Milwaukee, or honestly, I know there's a lot of rumors that Giannis might come to LA at some point if Milwaukee lets him leave. Like, all the crazy NBA rumors that happen. So, like,
yeah, sure. I think you have to ask yourself that same question, but change the name. Could you see Russell Westbrook doing it? Could you see James Harden doing it? Could you see John Wall doing it? And John Wall even said the other day, I just want to wear an NBA uniform again, whether that's as a player on the bench, a starter, or a coach. And these guys want to get paid because I'm sure they've all bought a bunch of dumb shit in their time and they need to continue making money.
Yeah.
But and on a more serious note, these guys want to remain in the league and they want to be a part of the NBA unless, injuries derail, somebody to that point to where it's like, I just need to retire. We've seen guys like Isaiah Thomas fight their way back to the league, dropping 80 on a bunch of Europeans. So, I think that's really what it is for me is, everybody kneels at some point who is at that number one spot. Everybody has their day. Bradley Beal, even to that same conversation, to that same extent, isn't even a number 2 on Phoenix right now. And
Right.
some might even say he's not even the number 3 at certain times. Like it's definitely one of those things where as we get older, it's super unfortunate. Derrick Rose, my guy, the Windy City assassin himself, from the youngest MVP ever to a motivational speaker for Ja Morant on the Memphis Grizzlies. Like he doesn't do much else other than that. So I think it's definitely one of those things that just comes with age. I don't think AD would have a problem with that. I think he continues to do what he does, and I don't see him. I could see him leaving LA, but I can't see him just leaving the league because Bron did. He was great before Bron, and I think he could still be great after.
Yeah, I think it's possible, but it will be interesting to see. Like we talked about, the injuries has played a key part, and I think that might be what potentially derails him, but we'll see. We are going to take one quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will get into a little bit of football as far as Mike's guy, Trevor Lawrence, out of one of his favorite colleges of Clemson, and how he's getting compared to Daniel Jones of all quarterbacks. The disrespect. But we will be right back after this.
The fact that our patriotism in America is dwindling, I really wanted to start the American AF movement. Freedom is fragile, very fragile. It takes a certain level of intestinal fortitude to stand up and say and do the right thing to preserve the freedoms that so many have paid a large price for. About being in the military, and that recruiter said, it's not Biden's army, it's your army, it's his army, it's his army, it's all of our army.
American tactical. American as f***.
Department of Veterans Affairs. For PSAs on the best services available to veterans, go to VA's new radio outreach page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
All right, we are back for the second half of the show, and we're going to talk Mike's guy, the guy that has been touted as the generational quarterback, at least this coming draft. Well, this past few drafts, we've had all sorts of different types of guys come in as far as the generational guy. We've had Peyton Manning, we've had Andrew Luck, we've had RG3. Now we get to kind of modern day, and we get Trevor Lawrence. And so for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to read these stats off real quick for you guys.
Hold on, bro. You didn't say Caleb Williams is crazy. Damn.
No. Hey, we don't know how Caleb's going to be
Damn.
yet. We don't know how Caleb is going to be yet.
I know.
We gotta wait for him to get there. We gotta wait for him to get there.
I know.
But so to compare the first 48 starts for Trevor Lawrence to Daniel Jones is pretty crazy. So for Trevor Lawrence, his total yards in the first 48 starts, he has 12,204 total yards, 66 touchdowns to 35 interceptions. He's lost 20 fumbles with a passer rating of 85.5. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, has 11,992 yards in total yardage, 64 touchdowns, 33 interceptions, 21 fumbles lost, and a passer rating of 85.4. So with the exception of some, maybe a couple more touchdowns here or there, a couple more interceptions are not here or there, and the difference of about 300 yards or so, they've had a really similar career up until this point. Obviously, Trevor just got paid a ton of money. Daniel Jones got paid a ton of money last year and is actually making about $40 to $45 million. So, Mike, let me ask you, because you have watched Trevor Lawrence for a long time, just like I have. You said you even watched him coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Going into Clemson. He had big shoes to fill as far as filling in for Deshaun Watson after he left, and actually took Clemson to a national title his freshman year and ended up helping them win. So, Mike, what's your thoughts on this? He's being compared to Daniel Jones of all quarterbacks.
I think it's accurate. I think it's really, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to act like this huge meat rider of Trevor Lawrence, but we're the same age. And I played football in high school. So Max Prep Sports, if you watch any Max Prep Sports highlights, anything like that, House of Highlights, wherever, guys like Ja, guys like Zion, guys like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Those were my guys. That's my graduating class. So I want to say that first and foremost. I'm not just one of those guys that's like, I've watched him since Pee Wee. Like I really have. Like I've seen him all the time as some of the best guys to do it in my class and in my graduating year. So I have gotten to watch Trevor Lawrence a lot. And I even loved the QB1 show that Justin Fields was on. Or whatever, I forgot the name of the show that he was on, but him and Trevor Lawrence even had like a competition going back and forth. And why I thought it was so interesting when you pull up this stat right here is because you're getting paid. There's two differences to why both of these quarterbacks got paid. One is a bad financial decision, and it's just because you don't know what you're doing as an organization in the New York Giants. Number two is, on the other hand, based off of potential. I think they're looking at what Trevor Lawrence can be and hoping that he can become that once again. Yeah, that prolific guy who's going to take you to the promised land, the national champion freshman out of Clemson with Dabo Swinney that just made waves and looked like the next Andrew Luck, looked like the next Peyton Manning. I mean, he looked like he was made in a laboratory. He still does. He's got a beautiful wife as well, and they have a beautiful dog, and they have a beautiful story. I mean, he's what you want out of a franchise quarterback. Unfortunately, what we've seen from the two thus far is very similar. And I think that's the more interesting conversation for me, is really breaking down why that is. Daniel Jones is a shit ass quarterback, period.
Yes.
But he also hasn't had weapons offensively outside of Darren Waller, and he is a horrible rapper now that is retired from the league. So it's Saquon Barkley, sure, but like that's not an offensive weapon that he's going to be able to help with his passing game. That's going to help him go from 11,000 to 15,000 just due to a couple guys. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it comes down to. Trevor, on the other hand, I can't really say the same thing for him anymore. I mean, you bring in Christian Kirk, you bring in Calvin Ridley, you bring in Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. Like he has weapons. He has a decent offensive line. He has a solid defense, a better coaching staff. Yes, we understand what his rookie season was with one of the worst NFL coaches of all time, without a doubt. But it's definitely one of those things for me where the stats don't lie. The stats don't lie, and this is what it is at the end of the day. So I think until you start winning meaningful football games, until you start showing us that you're an MVP caliber player, that's when you start to have a change of heart to maybe this contract doesn't look as bad. You are getting paid more than Lamar Jackson, a two-time MVP. You are getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes, who, three-time Super Bowl champion, multi-time
times.
MVP? Yep. I mean, I understand how the market works. I'm not an idiot. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just going to continue to climb and climb, even if you're undeserving of guys to be compared to. But when you look at this and say, nah, bro, you can't make those comparisons. Yes, I can. Because neither of them win games, meaningful games. and both of them have damn near identical stats. So it definitely is, to me, one of those things where, Daniel Jones gets paid what he gets paid because they don't understand what they're doing as an organization. And I don't think they were prepared to let go of Daniel Jones at that time and where they were in the draft. But I mean, Trevor is in that same situation to me. As much as I'd like to agree, Jacksonville also doesn't know what they're doing. They did pay him because they want him to be the franchise quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Whereas I don't really know if the Giants really want Daniel Jones in the building, to be completely honest. I think they'd rather he wasn't, but they're just kind of in that situation. They're in a toxic relationship. But yeah. I'm. How do you feel about it? Because I'm kind of just like, it's not wrong, but it's not right.
Yeah, the only thing I would argue is, to me, Trevor's in the same boat as far as weapons go. And I say that because obviously, Trevor's rookie year, he has Urban Meyer as a head coach, so that scratches a lot of things.
I didn't even want to say his name, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
But ETN got hurt his rookie year at the same time as well. So he loses ETN. When he comes back, ETN is essentially playing what would be his rookie year with Trevor. Trevor's already ahead of the game as far as he's used to the speed of it. He's used to getting the hits. Yes, they get Calvin Ridley, but he only has him for a year. And then they plunder signing him this offseason, and he ends up signing with the Tennessee Titans in the division with him. And yeah, they get Evan Ingram, who, ironically, from the Giants and played with Daniel Jones, has had a bit of a career revival because I think Doug Peterson has done a better job as far as utilizing his talents behind that. I really don't get where people kind of compare it, because, or not to say that people are going to try to argue that he's as bad as Daniel Jones. He's in the same situation as Daniel Jones. Like, you look historically at Jacksonville, they've always been bad. Like, hardly anybody wants to come there free agent wise. They don't really draft well. They don't spend their money well. Defensively, they've taken a step back for sure. Offensive line, they've had to fix. And, let's be realistic with Doug Peterson too. With the exception of that one season with Philly, as far as, them having all the right pieces and whatnot together. And
Nick Foles is Philly special. Like,
Nick Foles, Philly special. And as much as I hate to say it, you got to give a lot of credit to Howie Roseman, because that man's still making moves to this day with or without Dougie P. And Philly has either sniffed a couple Super Bowls or been to a Super Bowl again since then. So it wasn't all just Dougie P. What's up? You're looking confused.
Philly did go to the Super Bowl.
They did. They went to face Kansas City and they lost.
I mean, but you can't say they didn't sniff one, and they did sniff it. They sniffed it. They just didn't.
They did. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think, because they went to the Super Bowl. They didn't go to the NFC Championship. I'm trying to think of how many times they've gone to the playoffs with Nick Sirianni. They've gone 3 times.
3 times, I think.
Yeah, the first time they got destroyed by the Bucks. Then they went to the Super Bowl, and then they ironically got destroyed by the Bucks again. Post Tom Brady with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, and then you look at the Giants with Daniel Jones. Now, like you said, the only weapon he's really ever had is Saquon Barkley.
Right.
But the reason Saquon Barkley couldn't be as effective as a weapon is the same reason why Daniel Jones has struggled as a quarterback. That offensive line has been crap ever since, honestly, since they won their last Super Bowl. That offensive line has been awful ever since. They've invested a ton into defense that has honestly both underperformed, mainly because they can't stay off the field because their offense keeps turning the ball over. And they really don't. The one time they make a big splash, they get Kenny Golladay of all wide receivers, and that man committed highway robbery on national television, and we let him get away with it.
Chicago native. Shout out to him. Shout out
Is
to
he
him.
really?
He is.
That's awesome. But nonetheless, though, to me, like you said, this is the one point where Jacksonville is actually doing the right thing, because they said, we want Trevor to be our franchise quarterback, so we're going to sign him to a lucrative deal. We're going to give him $250 million because we know he can be the guy that carries our franchise. If you look at the Daniel Jones deal, all the Giants have to do is just make it through this season, and then they can cut Daniel Jones, and it's hardly a cap hit at all afterwards.
Right.
And honestly, And you and I talked about this, and a whole lot of very reasonable Giants fans said it with us, that it made 0 sense after 1 year. Daniel Jones threw 3,500 yards. He had 15 touchdowns, 5 picks, and he ran pretty well. Got him into the playoffs. He beat, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, which isn't exactly hard to do because it's a primetime football game and it's Kirk Cousins.
Oh man.
And they pay him a ton of money afterwards. It blew my mind. But to get back to the actual comparison though, I'm in the same boat with you. I get why, because the statistics don't lie. They've both had multiple head coaches. They've been in pretty bad, at least within the last 10 years or so, they've been with bad organizations, bad management, and neither one of them can seem to really get out of it. I think for Trevor, the reason why he gets more grief than anything is the Giants have been so bad for so long. Even when they had Eli and they turned the reins over to Daniel Jones, everybody's like, well, the Giants have been bad. For Trevor, because they put that title of he's a generational guy, look at what he did at Clemson, he's a generational quarterback, he should be able to carry a team like the Jags. I'm going to make this argument. How many guys have we seen that were really good in college, like really good, go into the NFL? It's hard to carry a bad NFL team because you're having to go against other top dudes in the league. Like you look at Colt McCoy when he was in Texas. He was a great quarterback. Could not carry the Browns to anything, and pretty much every other quarterback that went to the Browns.
I could look in my backyard, bro. I mean, look at
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields is a totally different conversation as well. So it's like it's one of those things where it's just, you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And I also have to rewind because what the fuck? I'm sorry, Tone, but like
you're good, buddy.
There's so many people getting drafted right now, and I'm just like, I'm Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is this guy? Like, I have no idea who any of these people are. So it's like I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. But I'm with you, bro. Like I really am, and I think the consensus at the end of the day to me is building around a championship caliber quarterback. And I think the easiest way to do that, unless you are Patrick Mahomes, and even then, it's still super easy because of how team friendly his contract is really one of those things where you have to understand who you are as an organization. You have to be like, listen, I know it's an anomaly for the way Ryan Poles has gone about the way he's done it, but Caleb Williams coming into a perfect situation is due to the fact that we didn't force this upon him. We didn't make him go through the bad years.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence went through the bad years. We've seen Justin Fields go through the bad years. We see what happens when players don't go to good organizations, to good teams who don't build around you automatically. They fire your previous head coach after your first year. Who has that in common with him? Justin Fields. You know what I mean? And even Daniel Jones has lost a couple head coaches before. So it's like you need that continuity to be able to have success. Trevor hasn't had it. Daniel hasn't had it. Those aren't excuses for the way they've played because Trevor looked like shit against the Los Angeles Chargers. Or was it the Chargers or the Raiders? I forget who they almost
the one that he actually won the playoff game.
Yeah. But
it was the Chargers, but he looked like crap in the beginning half. Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I'm gonna walk away for a second, but they definitely need to be in a better position to where we're looking at them for the foreseeable future as like these are guys that are going to continue to have success over the years. And I just don't see that ever happening from organizations like that, unless to your point, you get that Andrew Luck, you get that Peyton Manning, you get that, you know what I mean? And it's hard to like Trevor. I mean, Trevor was the hottest thing since pants with pockets, bro, since sliced bread, like since gorillas found out that you could peel a banana. Like that's like, it really is just like that. Thanks, Nikki. This is this is my mom's, I guess. Like it's been there since I was a kid. So no idea at all. That's
sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike. Didn't mean to distract you. I just wanted to point that out because thank you. I like that comment. That's awesome. But yeah, man, I'm interested to see what happens this year. I think this year is going to honestly prove a lot for both quarterbacks. I think it's going to prove a lot for Trevor as far as he's got Brian Thomas at LSU. Now the third season with the Jags, so got a little bit more confidence. He's got his time for that. can they respond fully? And Daniel Jones, yeah, they got Malik Neighbors, but that's about all they did. They lost Saquon. They really haven't done much either as far as drafting, free agency, and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to do. But Mike, buddy, I appreciate you being on as always, man. Always a blast. Appreciate it. If you guys like Mike and you like everything Chicago related, both with the Bears, the Bulls, the Cubbies, and for many people who don't know, if you have hopped on following the WNBA, all of the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, is it Camilla Cardozo?
Camilla
Cardozo on the Sky. Mike covers them. He does a great job covering the WNBA as a whole. He does a great job covering women's college basketball too. So if you like that, Mike is the guy to follow at The Shy Kid on pretty much everything social media wise. You can also follow me at Inside the Hoosier Mind, and you can probably find Mike on some of my stuff too. We follow each other and whatnot, so we're not hard to find by no stretch of the imagination. But Mike, appreciate you being on, man. As always, it is a blast. Thank you to Military Broadcast Radio for having me on here, giving a voice to veterans and helping me out. If you guys would like to learn more about MBR, please scan that QR code right underneath Mike there to give you a little bit more information. But I hope everybody has a good night. Enjoy the NBA draft tonight, and we will see y'all later.
That's the show for today, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with an all-new show. And remember, you can listen to us again and again. The podcast of this radio show is available right after we go off the air tonight, anywhere that you can get your podcast episodes. And thanks for joining us today. I'd like to take a moment to talk about something close to my heart. Military Broadcast Radio is doing incredible work to support our veterans and bring their voices to the world. They rely on your generous donations and your dedicated volunteer hours to make it happen. I encourage you to consider supporting MBR in any way, form that you can. Use this QR code that's attached to the picture, or you can go to our website at mbradio.us. That's MikeBravoRadio.us to learn more about how you can donate or volunteer even just an hour a week from your home. Help make a difference in the lives of our veterans, because once again, we're all here for you and not for us. We're giving our veterans a voice.